Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janabal Laba Girdhari. Gopi Janaballabha Girdhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Vishwam Sapadarajika Jaya. Stoter Satasi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishwam Sapadarajika Jaya. Stoter Satasi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening, Text 36. Sanaprasidatam Brahma Bhagavan Urvanugraha Vyadasyap Yanukampyanam Strinam Deva Satipati Sanaprasidatam Bhamo Bhagavan Urvanugraha Vyadasyapyanukampyanam Strinam Deva Satipati Sanaprasidatam Bhamo Bhagavan Urvanugraha Vyadasyapyanukampyanam Strinam Deva Satipati Vaishnavis. Sa, he, na, with us. Prasidatam, be pleased. Bhama, brother-in-law. Bhagavan, the personality of all opulences. Uru, very great. Anugraha, merciful. Vyadasya, of the hunter. Api, also. Anukampyanam, of the objects of mercy. Strinam, of the women. Deva, the worshipable Lord. Satipati, the husband of Sati, the chaste. Translation. This is Diti speaking. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also the worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences and can show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters. Purport. Lord Shiva is the husband of Sati, one of the sisters of Diti. Diti invoked the pleasure of her sister, Sati, so that Sati would request her husband to excuse her. Besides that, Lord Shiva is the worshipable Lord of all women. He is naturally very kind towards women, on whom even the uncivilized hunters also show their mercy. Since Lord Shiva is himself associated with women, he knows very well their defective nature, and he might not take very seriously Diti's unavoidable offense, which occurred due to her faulty nature. Every virgin girl is supposed to be a devotee of Lord Shiva. Diti remembered her childhood worship of Lord Shiva and begged his mercy. Translation again. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also the worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences and can show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters. Om Agyanachimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're in the midst of this history of Diti and Kashyapa, and you might wonder, what's all the fuss about? There seems to be just some internal home affairs, internal family affairs. Something going on between husband and wife. Why the magnitude, the scope, the immensity of implications? We're getting a window onto what real civilization is. And compared to our very tragic attempt at human civilization today, what you're reading may seem mythological or just blown way out of proportion. So there seems to be a little disagreement between the husband and wife about conception, and things happen. Okay, what's the big deal? You would say, through the lens of Kali Yuga in 2024, well, at least they're married. What more can you want than that? Even that these days is highly doubtful. I was just looking at statistics from the USA, which is supposed to be a Christian nation. The latest is that 33% of adults over the age of 30 think an open marriage is okay. You know, an open marriage. Everyone knows. What about those under the age of 30? 51% think it's fine. So this is the situation, that even the rudimentary basics of Kali Yuga family life are going down the drain. So now you're hearing about the exalted life of Diti and Kashyapa, but they made a mistake according to the proper standards of Dharma. And Prabhupada really hones in on this to make us face the fact that the origin of so many of the problems in the world today are due to faulty conception. As you know, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Viruddha Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava. I am that procreative act when it's according to Dharma. I remember Prabhupada giving a lecture, and all the brahmacharis started to blush because Prabhupada was talking about Rasaham Apsukonteya. Krishna says he's the taste of water. So when you drink water, you think Krishna's a taste. And Dharma Varudo Bhuteshu, Krishna says he's the procreative act. You can see Krishna in this way also. The brahmacharis all turn red. Another time, in a big park, this is 1975 in San Diego, there was an outdoor program and Prabhupada was attending. And the park was full of hundreds of counterculturals, hundreds of hippies. And there were also hundreds of devotees there, gathering from all over the West Coast to hear Prabhupada speak. So he began his lecture about the human form of life and the need for self-realization, the need for understanding Krishna. 10 minutes into his lecture, one hippie boy stands up and starts yelling, so everyone could hear, yelling at Prabhupada, "I want sex! I want sex! I want sex!" We're all wondering what's Prabhupada going to do. Prabhupada stopped the train of his lecture, the train of thought, and said, "You can have it! You can have it! You can have it!" And then Prabhupada, for 10 minutes, started explaining the whole Govardhana samskar. And all the devotees were like, especially the brahmacharis were like, "Ooh." But Prabhupada was so fearless and stuck to his standards. And he went through the whole thing. At this time of the month, it was unforgettable. So in this history of DT, Prabhupada's choosing to bring it down home to our level. That it's not the quantity of the world's population that's the problem. It's the quality. And the quality problem begins at conception. So there are 5 factors requiring protection in a real human society. Number 1, brahmanas, because brahmanas transmit wisdom. As you heard yesterday, His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj explaining that bhakti, to reach its pure stage, requires knowledge of devotional service, knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was explaining how that comprehensive knowledge is not there anywhere else than in the Bhakti Shastras. Just recently, one lapsed devotee, or you might say ex-devotee, came up to me. This is in New Zealand. And he had a shiny look on his face, that kind of temporary shiny look. Dressed conservatively with a white shirt. I knew what was coming next. "Maharaj, I've let the Savior into my heart." Okay, I said, "Oh, that's nice, that's nice." "Yes, I've been baptized." I told him, I did that when I was 11 years old. With all respect. So, devotees were watching and wondering, well, how do you respond to that? I told the devotees, not to this ex-devotee, but I said, what does first canto of Bhagavatam explain? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Priyojit. Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chadyadahetukam. When there is actual bhakti, love and devotion, and certainly that's what Jesus was pointing to and demonstrating, but when it's actually in the followers, you see symptoms. You see knowledge, and you see detachment from the illusory energy. Without the jnana, in that case, jnana referring to knowledge of the Supreme Lord and His opulences, His energies, His associates, His abodes, without detachment from the illusory energy, how can the bhakti be, how can it endure? How can it be strong? How can it become pure? So we shouldn't discount the need for knowledge of Krishna. In describing the glories of Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in one commentary, says sometimes people think that Haridas Thakur lacked rasa knowledge. He wasn't abreast with the rasa shastras. He just chanted Hare Krishna, that's all. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that by Haridas Thakur's constant and pure chanting, all the rasa shastras and their meanings were at his fingertips. He's completely conversant, even though he didn't write like Rupa and Sanatan or Raghunath Das. Yet, by his constant chanting, he was fully immersed in all the rasas, their knowledge. You can also recall in Caitanya Lila, when Lord Chaitanya was discussing with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya, the relative of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, was also there. And so Gopinath was standing up for Mahaprabhu because Sarvabhauma was saying, he's taken sannyas in an inferior sampradaya. I can help him out a bit. He's kind of young and beautiful. I can go through the whole ceremony again and give him entrance into a sannyas line that's prestigious. And so Gopinath Acharya explained that you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're talking about. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're doing. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya answered very appropriately. You say, I don't know what I'm doing. You say, I don't have the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know what I'm saying because I don't have that mercy. What's the proof that you have the mercy? And Gopinath Acharya replied, knowledge of the summum bonum, knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a proof of receiving Krishna's mercy. So we should always remember that. Knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam is not ordinary. Sometimes sentimentalists, sahajiyas, accuse that you bhaktas are spending too much time studying knowledge of the Shastra. You should just immerse yourself in the rasa mellows. But this is not the path given by the acharyas. We're meant to become fully conversant with the science of devotional service, fully conversant with the science of Krishna. So here we have a problem with Diti. She's gone against the first factor that needs to be protected, brahmanas. Her husband is a top-notch brahmana, and she ignored him. Karma Muni is going to explain what the outcome is going to be. Your mind was defiled at the time of conception, so you'll bring into the world cruel children. The time was completely wrong. Twilight, that's not the time for conceiving children. How long does twilight last? 2 gatikas. Maybe Banu Maharaj can explain. What is a gatika, Banu Maharaj? Quarter of a muhurta. Okay, that helps. Anyway, 2 gatikas make up twilight. Therefore, you're going to have 2 sons. And because the timing was terrible, the 2 sons are going to be terrible. Furthermore, you ignored my instruction. As a brahmana, as an upholder of Dharma, you didn't listen to what I said. Therefore, you're going to have sons who completely ignore Dharma. And finally, you neglected to take notice of the presence of Lord Shiva, who's active at that time. Therefore, you'll have sons who will hate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we might say, this is all sounding very severe, just for bit of family mayhem, bit of family confusion. But this chapter is teaching us how intricate and deep are our activities and their consequences. We think, oh, well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, what's the problem? But through DT, we're getting to see that the immense scope of a human activity. Of course, she's not an ordinary human, but Prabhupada wants us in the purports to think about what human beings do in terms of our current so-called civilization. Neglecting Kashyapa, who's a Brahmana, that means you're neglecting the first group that should be protected. Second group, cows. They require protection, as you're doing here at New Govardhana. They're Krishna's pets. More than just protecting cows because they give us the miracle food, we're also personalists. Krishna likes cows. They're his favorite pets, so we like cows because they're Krishna's pets. We take care of cows because Krishna took care of cows. That's the ultimate reason, as Srila Prabhupada explained it. There is the practical reason, we want the milk. But the topmost reason is that at the topmost planet of the spiritual world, Gopal Krishna takes care of cows. Therefore, we take care of cows here because we're devotees of Krishna. So number one, the Brahmanas, because they give wisdom, they need to be protected. Number two, cows, as we just described. Number three, women. Women need to be protected. What does that mean? It's difficult to understand that in today's culture because the ladies say, who's going to protect us? These guys? Get real. We're standing up for ourselves, right? In describing the protection of women in this chapter and elsewhere in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada makes the point that age of Kali means torturing women. I used to always think that meant like what happens in wars or violence, situations of violence. But Prabhupada's definition of torturing women goes deeper. It says women are tortured by unnecessary sexual indulgence. That's actually torture, for torturing of women. And then category 4, requiring protection, children. And that brings us to where we are in Bhagavatam today. The protection of children, Bhagavatam explains, begins with Govardhana samskara. You think, oh, protection of children begins when they're little kids and you've got to take care of them and raise them properly. No, Bhagavatam says protection of children begins with the procreative act done properly. And then number 5, the elderly. Why do the elderly need protection? Because they're about to give up their bodies, and they should have all facility to give up their bodies in Krishna consciousness. So that is a real human civilization. And just by applying that 5-fold standard of protection, you can see we don't have a real human civilization today. And therefore it's kind of hard to understand what's all the commotion about what Titi and Kashyapa did. As I said, at least they're married. It's always good to know what is the real standard. And Diti knows it, and therefore you're hearing her anxieties. Uh-oh. She's concerned about reactions. So she's calling on her allies, her sister, Sati, who is the consort of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva's consort has various names. Durga, Katyayani. And so she's saying, well, actually, Lord Shiva's my brother-in-law. And he's always with his consort, Parvati or Durga. Therefore, he'll be sympathetic to me. He'll show mercy. It's very interesting how Lord Shiva and his consort Durga show up even in Caitanya Leela. Caitanya Caritamrita describes how Lord Caitanya was on tour South India, and he came across Lord Shiva and his wife, and they were disguised as brahmanas, a brahmana couple. And so for 3 days in a solitary place, Lord Caitanya and Lord Shiva discussed confidential matters. I always wonder, what were they talking about? As Vaishnavas, we always consider that Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu. He's the topmost Vaishnava. So even when we focus on Lord Shiva, it's always in his role as a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like in Vrindavan, it's time for Shivaratri. So the Brijbasis don't carefully celebrate this every year, this holy day associated with Lord Shiva. In the Bhagavatam, it's described that out of eagerness, mostly attributed to Krishna's eagerness, the residents of Vrindavan decided, let's go to Ambikavan, the forest of Ambika, another name for Lord Shiva's consort. Let's go there and we'll have some fun. The acharyas point out that cowherd men are always liking to have fun, so they thought, let's go on a fun excursion. We'll go to Ambikavan, and we'll celebrate Shivaratri there. We'll do some fasting for 3 days, and then we'll come back. So it was with this kind of casual spirit that they went. Where Ambikavan is, some say northwest of Mathura, others say Gujarat. In any case, they went. And they arrived at the holy place. They fasted, only drinking water that day. They bathed in the Yamuna. No, it was Saraswati. They bathed in the Saraswati, which is not visible to ordinary vision these days. And then they went to sleep at night. Nanda Maharaj went to sleep in a distant place, farther away from the other cowherd people, because he was very tired from fasting, only drinking water, and the journey the day before. So he went to sleep in an isolated place so no one would bother him. Krishna was also in an isolated place with his cowherd boyfriends because they wanted to play and not be disturbed by the adults. So this is the setting of the scene. Nanda Maharaj is isolated. Krishna and the cowherd boys are isolated. Nanda Maharaj is deep asleep. And in the middle of the night, a huge snake comes and starts to swallow up Nanda Maharaj, beginning with the feet. So Nanda Maharaj is calling out, Krishna, Krishna, protect me, save me. Is Nanda Maharaj simply concerned with saving his own skin, so to speak? No, his real import is that, Krishna, I don't mind dying, I can handle that, but I can't handle separation from you. Please, save me, save me. So the cowherd men, from afar, they were a bit distant away, they came running because Nanda Maharaj is their king. And they want to do everything to protect Nanda Maharaj. They grabbed some from the fireplace. They grabbed some pieces of burning wood and started beating the snake. The snake wouldn't let go of Nanda Maharaj's feet. Krishna, who was further away, heard all the commotion, and he came. Saw the situation, and he simply, with his left foot, he touched the snake. He was very careful that he didn't touch Nanda Maharaj with his foot, because that's his father. That would be a great offense. So expertly, Krishna touches the snake with his left foot, and immediately the snake transforms into the most beautiful Devata. So Krishna asks, who are you? Of course, Krishna knows everything, but he's just arranging for the pastime to go on. Who are you? How did you take birth in such a horrible body as a snake? The snake was like a boa constrictor or a python. That's why the snake was able to swallow, starting with the feet of Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna asks, who are you? And the now dazzling Devata, dazzling demigod, explains, my name is Vidyadhara. How did I get the body of a snake? I was enjoying in the heavenly planets, and I saw sages, sadhus, in the parampara of Angira Rishi. And I looked at them, and they were deformed, and here I am so beautiful. They were thin from their austerities. So, overwhelmed by my own beauty and amused by their ugliness, I laughed at them. What did they do? They cursed me. They cursed me to take birth as a snake. But now I'm seeing that they gave me the greatest mercy. Yes, I became a snake, but I received the touch of Krishna's lotus foot. So he saw being cursed by the sages as the greatest mercy. And so he asked Krishna's permission. Will you allow me? Please let me go to the heavenly planets. Let me go back to my place. I had a service there of making music. Let me go back and make music glorifying you. That's my service. I don't think I can stay here because it's not my realm. Right now I'm in the midst of Krishna's pastimes. That's not me. But if you let me go back to my realm, to my abode in the heavenly planets, I promise I'll always make music for your pleasure. So I'm going to do devotional service there. So someone could say, the acharyas point out, why didn't Vidyadhara ask for liberation? He just went back to the heavenly planets. But Vidyadhara explains, now I have bhakti. What is liberation in comparison to bhakti? I've got the whole package just by the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. I don't need to ask for liberation. So someone could say, well, why don't you want to go back to Godhead? Why do you want to go to the heavenly planets? And Vidyadhara replied that everywhere is the abode of my Lord. And in the heavenly planets, I'll be engaged in devotional service. I won't be separate from my Lord through the service. So I'll go back to the heavenly planets. So in this way, what turned out to be at Ambikavan, this holy tirtha, where there are deities of Lord Shiva and his consort, what turned out to be a disaster, the swallowing of Nanda Maharaj by a snake, turned out to be the greatest benefit for the snake. And what is the hidden reason why Krishna was attracted to come and touch the snake with his lotus foot? The snake was actually worshiping the feet of Nanda Maharaj. That's how Krishna took it. And evidently that's what the snake was thinking. I'm going for the lotus feet of Nanda Maharaj. So, so in that way, Krishna decided, you were worshiping the lotus feet of Nanda Maharaj, my father? I'll touch you with my foot and you'll be transformed. You'll become a bhakta. So in this way, there's Lord Shiva and his consort in Krishna Lila. Of course, the most famous example, the gopis worshiping Lord Shiva, worshiping Lord Shiva's consort, all for the purpose of getting Krishna as their husband. Katyayani Mahamaye, Mahayogin Yajishvari. They're worshiping Katyayani, Durga, early in the morning, in the month before winter, and they're bathing in the Yamuna River, which is very cold then, but this is part of the austerity of the Katyayani Vrat, the vow. And they're unmarried. These are the unmarried gopis. What is their purpose? They want Nanda Gopa, Sutam Devi, that son, Suta of Nanda Gopa, Krishna's father. We want his son. Patame Kurute Namaha. Make him our pati, make him our Lord, our husband. So they're worshiping Durga for that purpose. Katyayani Mahamaye, Mahayogin, Yadishvara. They're worshiping Durga. You have that Shakti, you have that energy. You are the greatest mystic, and also you are the controller. Therefore, we're appealing to you. Don't say you can't do it. You can do it. Please arrange that the son of Maharaj Nanda becomes our husband. Now, sometimes it is said that they're actually not worshiping Durga. They're worshiping Gokuleshwari, the internal potency of the Lord. And the shadow of that internal potency is the material energy headed by Durga. You can take it this way, you can take it that way. As Prabhupada points out, if you want to take that they're worshiping Durga Devi, the one in charge of the illusory energy, just see how the gopis are willing to do anything to please Krishna. Anything to satisfy Krishna. All right, we'll worship Durga if we can get Krishna in that way. Or else you can take it that, just like Subhadra, the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gokuleshwari, the internal potency, various names. You can say that they're worshiping that because they're not going to have anything to do with the illusory energy. But then again, you can say, yes, they're worshiping Durga because in Krishna Lila, Krishna's associates act like they're part of the material world to some degree. That's why when the cowherd people saw what happened with Vijayadhara, Krishna touches the snake with his foot, and out comes a dazzling demigod, Vijayadhara. What were they thinking when they saw that? When the whole pastime was over and they were on their way back to Vrindavan after 3 days at the holy Tirtha, worshiping Lord Shiva and his consort. But they're worshiping Shiva and his consort, praying for devotion to Vishnu and the well-being of Krishna. They don't think Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's pray to Vishnu. Let's via Lord Shiva that our beloved Krishna will be safe. So they saw all this happening with Vijayadhara, and on the way back to Vrindavan, they're discussing it, but they're perplexed. It's like, you didn't really see that, did you? Our Krishna, our little Krishna did that? Nah. They were confused, the Acharyas point out. They were confused by their extreme prem. We saw it, but nah, we didn't really see that. Or they're thinking, Krishna's done things like this before. We haven't figured out what he did before, and we can't figure out what he's doing now. All we know is we love him. He's the heart of our heart. He's the essence of our life. So in that way, when the gopis were worshiping Durga, they're just imitating the ways of ordinary life, but their focus is always simply on pleasing Krishna. All right, any questions?
An interesting point about the snake going for the lotus feet of Nanda Maharaj, because I was just thinking, normally, constrictors, they eat the head first.
Maharaj knows intimate Australian knowledge.
Yeah, we've got a lot of them around here. They wrap around and they devour by the head first. Mm-hmm. So it was just interesting to note that it was a conscious decision that he went for the lotus feet, because it's opposite to what the snakes usually do.
Thank you.
Just a comment.
Yeah, wonderful. Right here, he has a question.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. Will you be able to explain who Subhadra is to me?
Oh, Krishna's sister, internal potency. Bhanu Maharaj, you want to give a more expansive definition of who Subhadra is? Thank you.
Not too much explained, but we know that Krishna has many aspects of his internal energy. Of course, Radharani is the ultimate Hladini Shakti personification, but there's also subgroups also. Even with Vishnu, there's Lakshmi, but then there's all these other Shaktis also who perform different functions in relation to Vishnu's pastimes. So also with Krishna's pastimes, we'll have his Shaktis doing various things.
All right, so you heard the first thing he said that got me off the hook. There's not too much in Bhagavatam explaining. Yeah, that's why I just said she's internal potency. Anything else? Yes.
Is it the goal then to just desire devotional service and not liberation?
For a real bhakta, yes. Liberation is considered insignificant. That's why Vijayadhara said in response that, why am I not asking for liberation? I've got bhakti. Liberation is a side effect of bhakti. I'm focusing on service. I'm a musician. I'm going to go to the heavenly planets and make music to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's thinking service, as we should be thinking. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.